We are ready.
Hi everybody, this is Mark from City Church. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but I was talking with Pastor Tim one night, and he was talking to me about his trip to Israel. He'd gone to Israel one time, and he was really just praying for peace for Israel, and he had a map of the region, and he was out walking, and I guess he wasn't paying attention where he went to. He tripped and fell, and he looked down to see what he tripped over, and it was a lamp. So he rubbed it, and a genie popped out, and the genie says, "Pastor Tim, I will grant you one wish." So Pastor Tim looks at the genie and he holds up the map and he goes, because there's been such turmoil in this part of the world, I wish that you would just grant peace here in the Middle East. And the genie looks at the map and he looks at Pastor Tim and he goes, there's a lot of things in my power to grant, but this deals with powers and issues that have just gone on for eons, and I cannot grant this wish. Could you please give me another wish? So Pastor Tim goes, well, from Canada, and my team is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Do you think that you could have the Toronto Maple Leafs win the next Stanley Cup? And the genie looks at Pastor Tim and says, hey, can I take another look at that map?
morning, City Church. Welcome to our online service. We're so glad you're joining us from wherever you are, your living room, your kitchen, or maybe you're still in bed. We're glad you're here with us. And if you're joining us live during this premiere, stick around after the service. Each Sunday, we have our after church Zoom meetup party, so we can enjoy each other's company, even if it's just virtually. The link to the Zoom meeting is in the description below, and it will be there for the whole time. Just click it and join as soon as the video is done. Or you could even head over there now and join the watch party. Your call. I know, some of you find this virtual world challenging, but think about this. Anyone can join in. If someone is sick, in quarantine, or maybe you want to invite a friend of yours from a different part of the world to check out your church. Being online gives you this opportunity. You could even host your own watch party. Now, before we continue, whether you have given during the week already, we want to give you a moment to give prayerfully and intentionally. You can follow the link below to learn which is the best way to give right now. And we want to thank you for your generous and faithful giving. Ladies, this Friday at 7 p.m. is Ladies Wine Night. Join in with wine or with another beverage of your choice and have some fun with us. If you would like to join, you can email me at renata@citychurchwarsaw.org. Next Sunday, it is the second Sunday of the month. So we will be live on Zoom at 11 a.m. to worship and take communion together. Watch your email for the link this week. The very last thing, if you are sick and in quarantine at home, please let us know so we can pray for you, check on you, and assist you with meals if you need it. If you would like to help prepare meals for those people, let us know also so we can coordinate with you. Email us at info@citychurchwarsaw.org to let us know you are in quarantine and need help, or that you would like to help out. Any questions? Wonderful. Now back to some music.
Lord, my life is an empty cup. Here's my heart, would you fill me up? I'm face to the ground, forsaking my pride, leaving my will, my burdens behind. All I want, all I need is just to be with you, just to be with you. Here I am at your feet, just to be with you, just to be with you. I have come to the end of me, there's nothing I have to bring. But you said I belong, you say I am yours. Nothing compares to knowing you more. All I want, all I need is just to be with you, just to be with you. Here I am at your feet, just to be with you, just to be with you. need is just to be with you, just to be with you. Here I am at your feet, just to be with you, just to be with you. All I want, all I need is just to be with you, just to be with you. Here I am at your feet, just to be with you, just to be with you. All I want, all I need is just to be with you, just to be with you. Here I am at your feet, just to be with you, just to be with you. All I want is just to be with you.
Good morning. Over the last several videos, we have looked at arguments and evidence for the existence of God and responded to some of the common objections to belief in Him. We've looked at the cosmological argument, we've looked at the fine-tuning argument, and we've looked at evil and suffering as an objection to God's existence, and we looked at how there's no inherent conflict between faith and reason. In fact, the idea that there was a conflict was never a popular idea until the late 1800s, when it seems to have been used for political means within the academy itself. Now today, I want to give you one more argument formulation that you can remember and use, not so much as a weapon against others who do not believe, but to add to the foundation of your own faith. Now, I think the cosmological and fine-tuning arguments are really cool, and I love all the science involved in them. I love science. I know my son loves science, and other young people in our community have really been interested to hear more about how we as followers of Jesus engage with science in a modern age. I think we need more of that, and I think especially that we need to know that there are many, many professional scientists working at very high levels who are also followers of Jesus. No matter what anyone will tell you now or in the future, you do not need to choose between science and faith. Now, while last week's sermon gave some people a headache, today's argument touches a little closer to the heart. The cosmological and fine-tuning arguments are really big and really fascinating, but they aren't really emotional. But the moral argument for God's existence is much more so. As always, you can follow the links in the description below to see resources that I've used, as well as any further resources that I think you might find helpful. So here's the question for you. Can humans be good without God? Now, someone might get angry at me for even asking that question, assuming that the answer is so obvious that it's foolish. And of course, many people live good, kind, giving lives while not believing in God. One of my best friends is an atheist, and I would say that describes him very well. But the question wasn't, can you be good without believing in God? The question was, can we be good without God? As in, is it possible for us to be good if He were not to exist? And where do we get our idea of goodness? Social convention? Personal preference? Maybe it's developed by evolution, or is it from God? Now, you could probably find someone who would argue any one of those. But which is the most reasonable? Plato thought that moral values just existed on their own, independently of anything else. So things like mercy, love, justice, they would all just exist on their own, independently of any source. But the idea of moral values just existing in the abstract apart from persons is difficult to defend, because moral values seem to be properties of persons, so imagining something like mercy or justice just existing by themselves just doesn't seem to work. So let's take a look at the argument that I have for you today and go from there. First premise: if God does not exist, objective moral values and duties do not exist. Number 2, objective moral values and duties do exist. Number 3, therefore, God exists. Now, what do we mean by objective moral values and duties? Well, values refers to whether something is good or bad, and duties refer to whether something is right or wrong. You say, wait, aren't those the same thing? They're not. Duty implies a moral obligation, something you should do or not do. However, you are not morally obligated to do something simply because it is good. Is it a good thing to become a doctor? Yes, but you are not morally obligated to become a doctor. Other professions could also be good for you to pursue. You are not morally obligated to become any one of them. Or, if all you have is bad choices, are you morally obligated not to choose one of them? No. Now, the other word there that's important for us to define, for those who might not already know it, is objective. Generally, we distinguish between objective and subjective. Objective means it is not dependent on any person. Subjective means it is dependent on a person's opinion. So, if we say that something is objectively good or bad, it means that no matter what people think about it, or no matter how many people choose to believe otherwise, it does not change. It remains good or it remains bad. It remains what it is. An objective truth would be like the laws of nature that we talked about last week. They are true whether we choose to believe them or not. Subjective would be something like the taste of coffee and whether or not you should ruin it by putting milk in it unless it's a cappuccino, or whether pineapple belongs on pizza as God hath foreordained. Here's a more serious example. To say that the Holocaust was objectively wrong is to say that no matter how many people choose to believe otherwise, and even if the Nazis, who thought what they were doing is right, had won the Second World War and brainwashed you into thinking their actions were right, it would still be wrong. Now, the first premise of the argument says that if there is no God, moral values and duties are not objective in that way. And many people will like the first premise because it seems to affirm their own inclinations towards relativism. You know, what's true for you may not be true for me. Live your truth. It's all good in what some call a post-truth era. And people are generally fearful of imposing their views on someone else, so it sounds good. It sounds very free. It sounds very comforting. Then when we come to the second premise, we find that many people deeply believe this too. Even in our modern age, the idea of something like tolerance and open-mindedness are considered objectively right, and it's objectively wrong to impose your values on someone else. So they believe both premises. Traditionally, for Western civilization, moral values have been based in God. But if someone wishes to avoid belief in God, then on what do they base moral value and duty? Is it based on social convention? Perhaps it's personal preference. Maybe it's developed by evolution. Or is it from God? If it is based on social convention, what do we do with practices like sati, the burning of widows alive on their husband's funeral pyre? What do we do with the Crusades or the Inquisition? Those had a lot of social convention involved. It would be difficult to criticize those things looking back if they were simply social conventions. If it is based on personal preference, then we're bound to relativism. Is it true for you, but not for me? Good and bad, right and wrong are different for me to how they are for you. If it's via evolution, then what makes us greater than the animals? On naturalism, we are simply animals, and animals have no moral obligation to one another. When a lion kills a buffalo, has it murdered the buffalo? No. The lion has no moral obligation to that buffalo. Science is morally neutral. It does not produce, nor does it find moral values. So if a person is committed to naturalism, it would seem to imply that moral values are simply an illusion. They might say that we do what is advantageous for survival, and that's where we develop moral values and duties. Well, Charles Darwin wrote this: if men were reared under precisely the same conditions as hive bees, there can hardly be a doubt that our unmarried females would, like the worker bees, think it is a sacred duty to kill their brothers, and mothers would strive to kill their fertile daughters, and no one would think of interfering. At this point, one explanation given is that whatever contributes to human flourishing is good. But why, on naturalism, should human flourishing be more important than another species flourishing? What is to contribute to human flourishing in other species needs to be destroyed or harmed in some way. Why not prioritize mosquitoes? Why not prioritize rats? Why prioritize one species over any other so arbitrarily? If our moral values and duties come through evolution, then we can't trust them. The goal of evolution is not truth, but survival. So any moral beliefs that we might hold as a result of evolution have been selected for their survival value, not their truth value. Ironically, this little conflict has far-reaching implications for naturalism and evolution, because if naturalism is true, every single belief of yours is a result of evolution and social conditioning. That should make you skeptical about knowledge. And if our understanding of evolution is the result of evolution and social conditioning, we should be skeptical about it. You can see below for more on that. But like I said, few people would argue that no objective moral values and duties exist. The question is, if God does not exist, where do they come from? Of course we can live moral lives without believing in God. Can we recognize objective moral values and duties without believing in God? Absolutely. Can we formulate a system of ethics without believing in God? Absolutely we can. Again, most of those things are based on a Judeo-Christian belief, at least in Western civilization, in God as the creator. So if we remove God from the equation and these things are still objective, where do values and duties come from? We're only left with one possibility that agrees with the two premises. Let's take another look at the argument. Number one, if God does not exist, objective moral values and duties do not exist. Two, objective moral values and duties do exist, therefore, God exists. If God does not exist, no one can declare anything moral or immoral. It would simply be a matter of preference. I like this, you don't. That's the difference. Simply a matter of taste. Simply a matter of what's fashionable. Human freedom, caring for the poor, ending war, slavery, starving the poor, genocide. Apart from God, those things are all simply a matter of preference. Because apart from God, there is no basis for human rights at all. The great Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky wrote, "If God did not exist, everything would be permitted." Nietzsche insisted that if God is dead, any morality of love and human rights has no basis. Jean-Paul Sartre, the French existentialist philosopher, admitted the same, and on the list goes. But there are objective moral values and duties. Think of all those things I mentioned and think about how passionate many of us are about them. Freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom from slavery, freedom of religion, a lot of freedom, equal opportunity, women's rights. But apart from God, there's no basis to pursue any of those things. A person doesn't need to believe in God to see the value and morality in those things, but the reason they sense that those things are worthy of pursuit is because of how they are created. When Paul was writing to the church in Rome, he included this statement. "Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts sometimes accusing them and at other times even defending them." Paul says, even without knowing God, a person still has that sense of right and wrong, good and evil, through their conscience. For a follower of Jesus, it's really a no-brainer that the way that we are to live our life is to match the character of God. The new commandment that Jesus gave his disciples, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." You know, we've just been able to make that connection as to where our moral values and duties come from and then what we should do about them. There's no evolutionary necessity for me to love someone outside my actual family. Nature thrives on violence and predation. You, I, and probably everyone you know would agree that violence and predation towards one another is not a good idea for humans. But why pursue justice, mercy, and love? Because God himself is those things. You and I have been created in his image and know that those things are worth pursuing. John wrote, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. He gave himself for you and for me, and has commanded that we love others in the same way. As I have loved you," he said, "so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples." We love because he first loved us. All that is good, all that is right, all that is worth pursuing is because of who God is. Let me pray for us. God, we thank you for how you created us. We thank you that you put in our hearts the ability to sense good and evil and right and wrong. Help us remember you and not take this for granted. Thank you for reason and minds in providing ways for us to know you, no matter who or where we are. Build our faith and help us trust you more. We love you. Amen. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Stories of what they think you're everyone. We hope you enjoyed our video today. Before you go, would you smash that like button, hit subscribe, and even turn on the bell for notifications when we post videos like this and other content as well. Did you do it? Great! Now go check out Mosaic Kids.